Okay, I said that I would read a ghost story from the Messenger, the Kent Messenger and Maidstone Telegraph, which dates to Saturday, August the 30th, 1924. Now, I don't know if this was a good idea, but I thought it would be nice to read it for the first time on camera rather than rehearse it. It's buried somewhere in the back of the newspaper. I mean, it's quite a remarkable thing, isn't it? A ghost story. That doesn't mean in the material world that it's going to make front page news. Anyway, I found the story. The story is called Night of Terror. And the text is a little bit faded. I wonder if the use of a magnifying glass can change that. Just making sure that the video is running. I've got one of these cheap magnifying glasses that one can buy, probably from Temu, I would think, but not this one. This is Amazon. Anyway, they all come from the same place, don't they? Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. Gimmick. Okay. I just have to do the best I can. Night of Terror. Mystery of haunted house. Mystery of haunted Maidstone house. Weird crashes and rumblings behind locked doors. The uncanny bedstead knobs. Terrific crashes as of the smashing of 100 plates. Sudden bangs like the dropping of a dozen heavy weights. Ornaments which flew up the stairs and clattered down them. Bedstead knobs which unscrewed themselves and fell onto the floor. The shaking of a bed by unseen hands. Such are the amazing features of the account of a night of horror spent by a family in Malling Terrace, Maidstone, this week. The story has elements of mystery which are worthy of the imagination of an Edgar Allan Poe. It does say that, by the way, there's no noun after Edgar Allan Poe. It all occurred in the stillness of the night on Saturday at number 15, a house occupied by an old couple, Mr. William Green, aged 70 years, and his wife, Mrs. Mary Jane Green, aged 74 years. With them in the house was their granddaughter, Miss Grace Smith, who is 16 years of age. So, conceivably, she might still be alive, but it's unlikely. Where are we? The family retired to rest at about 11 o'clock. Mr. and Mrs. Green sleeping in the front bedroom and the girl in the back of the house, only a few feet separating the doors of the two rooms. By the way, it's not that likely that she'd still be alive. I think she might be breaking a record. It was not many minutes later that hair-raising things began to happen. I had only just closed my eyes for what seemed a few seconds, Mr. Green told a Kent Messenger representative, when I heard a terrific din. At first, it appeared to come from above our heads and sounded as if the mortar was falling from beneath the tiles onto the ceiling of our room. This is very hard to read, by the way. It's quite faint text. It was a weird, terrible banging and crashing, accompanied by a sort of clattering in the other room itself. My wife was also awake, and she said to me, "The ceiling's fallen in." "Oh, what could have happened?" I replied, "I had better go and have a look." With that, we got out of bed and lighted a candle and went into my granddaughter's room. There I saw she was still asleep, but one of the brass knobs on the top of the, post at the head of the bed had become unscrewed and fallen onto the floor. The noise of its falling had strangely enough, not awakened the girl. I picked up the knob and screwed it on again, and waking my granddaughter, left a light in the room. My wife and I then went back to bed. Okay. Well, so far this is quite an amazing story, because this is poltergeist activity, and poltergeist activity is not all that common. Now, it is often connected to teenagers, not that they're causing the trouble, but they're unconsciously causing it. Now, some people say it's ESP, and some people just say that the ghost just uses the energy of these people. I think it's usually the latter, because a ghost does emerge in such cases. Like, for example, the haunting in Enfield, the famous haunting there, that appears to have been a previous occupant of the house or of the land. I can't remember which, but it was an old man that died. Yeah, that's right. He died in the chair, I think, in the room downstairs. And so even if he was getting that energy somehow through the teenage girls, or through the young girls, ultimately they were conduits. Anyway, here we go. Next part. Bedstead knobs again unscrewed. This text is also really small, but anyway, it does the job. All the time we were out of bed, he continued, there was no disturbance, but directly our heads touched the pillows, it all started again. There were more rumblings and crashings in the back room and above our heads. It was an unearthly noise and made us think that the house was really falling to pieces. We again went into the other room. See, that's the thing about these hauntings. You know, people always say that there's a certain section of the population that say these are faked, but you can't really fake the sort of havoc that goes on in these cases without realizing that someone's doing it. If it is human agency, shall we say, if it is mortal agency. And that appears to be the case here. Terrific crashings. Lost my place. Where am I? There were rumblings and crashings in the back room and above our heads. It was an unearthly noise and made us think that the house was really falling to pieces. We again went into the other room and found the child sitting up in bed and looking very frightened. I said to her, "What's happened now?" And then she told me she had heard the knobs at the top of the bedposts being unscrewed and thrown to the floor. There I found them lying. I again picked them up and replaced them, screwing them on tightly. We then took the girl into our room and, leaving the candle burning where it was, returned to bed. Can you imagine returning to bed? I guess that's just some people's way of dealing with it, but it's almost like total denial, or it's total acceptance, isn't it? It's like, okay, you think you know what you would do in circumstances like that, but you wouldn't necessarily. There's lots of questions that will be raised in people's heads as they hear this story. You know, why weren't they questioning the girl? Maybe they thought that she did it in her sleep, etc., etc. But it doesn't mean that this isn't a true story. It's just the way they dealt with it. I don't think it's that strange. They're old people, after all. They've seen a lot of life. Anyway, so she's very frightened. I said to her, okay. again, all the time we were up, the noises ceased. Okay, so the noises, this is really interesting. They went back to bed. As long as they were up, the noises were not occurring. Stranger incidents were, however, to occur, and this proved to be but the commencement of nearly 3 hours of uncanny crackings, scrapings, and crashes. Again, with paranormal activity, there are certain noises you hear. You cannot even be sure exactly what they were. I remember when I stayed in the Bear Inn in Oxfordshire. That's a very old building. I think it's about 700 years old, but the part that I was staying in, the ghost, supposedly dates back about 300 years. But I heard this sound, and I would describe it as unearthly. I couldn't say what it was. The closest thing I could describe it to would be like a very heavy piece of furniture being dragged across the floor. But I really, that's just an approximation, really. And it only happened once. So then you start questioning yourself. You're thinking, what it's hard, really. It's something you want to be able to play back again and again. It's hard to be sure. I keep interrupting the story. I'm very sorry about that. Let's continue. Yeah. So they've gone back to bed. Stranger incidents, however, and this proved to be but the commencements of nearly 3 hours of uncanny crackings, scrapings, and crashes, all classic poltergeist noises. The old people had no sooner got into bed for the third time than they heard a terrific smashing noise from the direction of the kitchen. Mrs. Green cried out, "Oh, there's the shelf and all my crockery fallen down." The falling of the imaginary mortar onto the ceilings of the bedrooms was renewed. And notice it says imaginary mortar. Sometimes there are incredible crashing sounds and yet nothing. I think this was in one of the uncanny stories about somebody hearing what sounded like, a whole load of crockery going onto the floor or something, and then you go in the room and it's all peaceful. So it says the falling of the imaginary mortar onto the ceilings of the bedrooms was renewed, and there were weird clatterings in the other room, accompanied by the thud of something dropping onto the floor and striking against the wainscoting. Mr. Green again set out to investigate. Holding his candlestick aloft, he went into the rear bedroom. There he found, to his amazement, that the knobs of the bedstead had again both become detached and fallen. A small wooden bracket, which had been nailed to the wall, was lying on the floor on the opposite side of the room, while the wooden top of an article of furniture had slid underneath the bed. For the third time that night, Mr. Green picked up one of the knobs and replaced it, calling out to the wife as he did so, "I am only going to put one of them back this time, as I suppose they," in inverted commas, "will have them off again before the night's out." He was a true prophet. They did! Exclamation mark. Puzzle of bolted doors. Now, I'm sorry. This is not going to be a ghost story that's uninterrupted, because I want to give my thoughts. And, when stories like this are told, people, they always go for the logical explanation. The logical explanation in cases such as this is that it's paranormal. That's the only logical explanation. Can you imagine how difficult it would be to create that sort of havoc in the house and to be faking it? How would you do it? Has that little girl sort of, especially in 1920, well, she's not a little girl, she's 16, especially in 1925, with the technology they had then. What has she done that she could reasonably do that could fool them? Yes, you might be able to do it if you're a stage magician, but magicians have tools of the trade. The mysterious... Oh, where are we? Oh, it's a long story, isn't it? This is not the Sun newspaper. This is a proper story. I'm only halfway through it. Maybe next time.